What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet.
It's time to take your ass on another kind of trip. Cause you can't have the hop if you don't have the hip.
I'm not Dan Fredenberg. I don't know anything about fixing online funnels.
Front of a house, it's going to be torn down soon.
I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close.
What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is we're seeing more properties like this being built. Let's do some stuff. Talk to you later. Bye.
I'm here today with Nicole. Is it Gautier? Is that how you pronounce it?
It is, yes. That was so awesome. Exactly right.
Well, it's I do know enough French to start a fight, so I got that going for me. But so French last name, does that French come from France or French Canada or any idea?
Actually, it comes from probably a little bit of both. But my husband is from Canada. Actually, I'm Canadian as well. But he's from British Columbia and he's got a European background. So that's where it stems from. Not Quebecois, but probably most likely France.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I remember there was something Canadian in your background. Wasn't there also something to do with engineering?
Yes, yeah. My dad actually moved us to the state or from the States to Canada when we were really young, and he had an engineering background. And so that's how we ended up in Calgary, Alberta. And then my husband's in oil and gas and has a petroleum engineering background. So then we came back to Houston and we've settled here. So it's been good.
Good stuff, good stuff. And for those of you that have never seen a Chance Encounter interview before, what we do is we introduce each other just like we're at a networking event. And then I have this system where I show 5 different motivations, it's easy for me to say, the 5 different motivations I've found for wanting to own part of an apartment complex. And so once we have the motivations, then we can discuss the 6 different roles that I've found that as a GP would see it in an apartment complex deal. So through that, we're able to get a very clear idea of who we're speaking with, how we can best be of assistance and whatnot. So to do that first, I'm going to switch the angle to this one, which means I need to scoot over here. I was saying that the other day in another Chance Encounter about how that's a very Canadian thing. I'll just scoot by you here.
Or scooch. I'll just scooch.
Scooch, right, exactly. So the presentation is called Why Do You Want Part of an Apartment Complex? And down below, I've got the original 6 roles that I figured out. But the problem I found is that a lot of people, especially when they're first starting, they don't know what their core competency is among these 6 different roles. But at least they know why they're there. So that's why I'm starting with motivation. So the first motivation that somebody has to get an apartment complex deal is to preserve their purchasing power. In other words, they're afraid that inflation is going to erode their net worth, and so they have to do something to make sure that it doesn't all go away. The next reason is my reason, which is trading time for wealth. And what I mean by that is I have the option of earning a salary in tech that's on the higher side. But if I want to invest that into wealth, if I want to transfer it into wealth in the form of part of an apartment complex, then I have to pay income tax first. So it makes more sense for me to work directly for the accumulation of wealth from a tax standpoint. So that's where I'm coming from. Now, the next one that the next motivation that somebody will have is they want to fast track their retirement, which generally means that they have some sort of nest egg to work with. So whereas the time for wealth not necessarily, right? So fast tracking the retirement is basically taking your own assets and trying to actively make sure that they're good. But the next one is for the people who are super duper ambitious. If somebody has a gigantic yacht, then they need an even bigger one. In other words, maybe they have a chip on their shoulder, but they want to buy their entire hometown. And just to show off, or for whatever reason. But at least with that motivation, that they'll work their butt off for the entire team, because they got to go big. And then the last one is some sort of irrational need to help tenants. I do have a little bit of an axe to grind, which is why I call it irrational. And what I mean is that irrational doesn't necessarily mean bad. But in this case, it means that you're not just trying to squeeze every cent of profit out of the property. You have some other reason other than just financial. So like maybe a social group that you particularly want to take care of. So through those 5 different motivations, which ones resonate with you or match where you're at?
So I would say my top one would be the irrational need to help tenants. And I think the reason why is because I have such like a social impact, like community empowerment mission that surrounds why I am in real estate investing, and my ability to help like underserved people in some of these like communities that just don't have the necessary resources to get out of where they are, or even have like the support for them to just like live their life with their basic necessities being met, right? And so of course that's definitely my number one. Can I pick a little bit of a different one as well?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so I would definitely say too, for kind of the mix of like trading time for wealth and fast tracking retirement. And I'm combining that more in the sense of financial freedom. So being able to like, live your life, having the passive income to be able to have not only like the financial freedom, but for me, I would love to like start a nonprofit and do volunteer work. And those are the things that you don't get paid to do. So if I can make money in other ways in order to like help other people, then that's like the main, a main mission of mine as well. So.
Yeah, that makes lots of sense. I want to go back to that after we finish the role part, but this next segment is where I'm talking about the 6 different roles, and I've got this die that I use for this. So the way I introduce it is I say, hi, I'm a repositioner. And that means part of my job is to go through a whole whack of different properties and then find out which one, they're not at their highest and best use, as they say. And what I mean is that there's more money to be made from this property being in our portfolio than it is as it stands. Because after all, real estate is so competitive, and right now we're in the hottest market in history. But even still, you have to be doing something. You have to have a plan on why this is such a good purchase, because otherwise you can go through somebody else. So that's the competitive advantage that the repositioner has to have. But if you're a repositioner like me from the internet, then you're going to have somebody to actually run the business. That's your operations person. So when a toilet gets clogged or something like that, the operations people have to take care of that. You'll also see I got the Benjamins going down the toilet. Okay, just to make sure that it's really clear that this is no joke, like operations, it is money down the toilet if they're not doing a good job. It also establishes that, bookkeeping, that style of management and marketing, it's still the money management is part of operations. But operating a building well, sure, there's a good chance that you could make more off of that property than it currently is, and then justifying the sale price. But the more reliable reliable way is to actually make the place nicer. So how does a repositioner do that? Well, if they're smart, they'll go get a contractor to fix it up. If they're not so smart, they might ask the operations to do it, and they'll do a terrible job, and it'll end up costing more than if they just did it through the contractor. So that's a bad idea. So that's what the contractor's there for. And some people might also try and rely on the operations to see how the contractor is doing, but I recommend the use of a local. Somebody who can get there, in an hour or two or something like that. That's absolutely vital if you're like me and doing all this from the internet, right? So you've got your local, you got your operations, so the local oversees operations, making sure that it's actually being done. I got a digital security background, so I'm always paying attention to what can be spoofed or faked, right? So that's why, you need that oversight. And the same thing goes for the contractor. So the local guy should know something about contracting in general. But if you got all of those, it sounds like you've got an entire deal. So if you go to the financier, in other words, the bank, and say, hey, can you give me a whole whack of cash so I can buy this building? Because look, I got the whole business all sorted out, right? I'll take care of it. They'll say, sure, but who's your sponsor? Ding, ding, ding. The sponsor of the KP, that's a person who already owns a similar asset, and their balance sheet has to be at least equal to the size of the loan. You have to have somebody in the fold like that. So if Elon Musk wants to buy a 450 unit apartment complex and he wants a loan, he needs somebody in the fold who's already doing it. So those are the 6 sides. And if you actually have all 6, then you have an apartment complex deal. So as far as core competencies, things that you're comfortable with doing, where exactly do you fit on this die in general? At least when it's right way up and stuff.
Oh, it's okay. I can read upside down. I read all the time like that with my kids. So let's see. I would say currently right now I am I'm doing like relationship building and capital raising, right? So I guess I would kind of fit into that.
Financier and repositioner is those two, yeah. So because
Okay,
you're finding the actual deals, and then if somebody comes around and they have a deal for you, then you can try and locate the capital for the down payment. And that's the thing I can be honest about. Full disclosure, I say financier and I say bank for SEC reasons, right? So I don't even use the I word, okay? Except for that you are a real estate investor. This is a financier. That's a different things. Bank, but there's also private investors, right? Such as yourself. So that's why I conflate those two. And on Repositioner, a lot of repositioners will have an entire acquisitions team, like a cold callers and whatever. But the repositioner is the one who will do the underwriting and figure out if the deal actually makes any sense.
Right. And that's the one that also thinks very creatively as well. It's like, okay, like, maybe I've been seeing lately people basically converting hotels into apartment complex or apartments. And so that's a really creative way too, to turn something that's very distressed and, possibly on the foreclosure list into something that's money making, right? But I will add that I like to be boots on the ground as well. So running around the complex, I've got a very good eye for details. So looking at, the different things that need to actually go through renovations, that sort of stuff. So it's all encompassing. It's fun, but I like your die there. Those are
Awesome.
that's a really creative way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I got a background that includes a fair bit of educating. So, as far as like finding devices to remember things, it's pretty handy. But what you were describing about those hotel conversions, that's one thing I've been hearing about. Another one I've been hearing about that's similar. I knew a guy through my last boss who he focused on environmental cleanup. And one of the problem is that typical, casual amateur investors, they hear that there's some sort of environmental cleanup necessary. They go, it's like, okay, I know it's going to cost a lot, but I don't know how much that's going to be. But because he actually is the environmental engineer who helps with cleanups, he knows exactly how much it's going to cost him to fix it in time or whatnot. So he's able to scoop up these properties dirt cheap, clean them up, and put them on the market. So it's a great angle for something creative. But the one that I've been hitting people up for recently is I'm getting some architects involved in being equity partners in deals, because they can take something crappy and turn it into something that looks really, really cool. Right. And then, like you end up getting like a boosted rents just because there's something like that's really out there. Right. I can tell you, like, off the top of my head, because I'm from Toronto, I'm thinking about the Royal Ontario Museum. It was this stuffy, very WASP style, type of building. And then they ended up making this big glass and aluminum crystal, come out of the building and cover it. So like it doesn't even look the same anymore. So, what's that?
I said, that's really cool. Like that's different, very creative. So
Right. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity there, especially if you've got an ugly duckling building, where it's just for some reason, like, especially if there have been, capital expenditures trying to raise the rent value and they're just still not getting, the occupancy or something like that. I think that if you did something off the wall with the building so people recognize it, I think you'd attract a certain clientele. But the next question, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I saw something really creative in Houston, where I'm based out of, and actually I had looked at a home like months ago, and outside the view of the outside of the window was of a motel, like kind of I guess it was like a C-shaped motel, and it
Mm-hmm.
had like a really crappy parking lot that was all like busted up and whatever. And it looked like a place that you might not want to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a few months ago. And then fast forward to July, it's my birthday, and my husband's like, oh, let's go to this place called Space Cowboy. And I'm like, okay, that looks really cool. Great marketing online. We go there, and it's this same complex, except for they turned that crappy parking lot into a lounge. And they put a pool there, and they did like turf, and then they were renting out the motel rooms as places for people to stay if they had too much
Airbnbs,
space.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it was the
awesome.
craziest thing. So they did like full conversion, and yeah, it's like they turned something that looked like it wasn't making any money into, it was a money making machine that night.
Nice. That's a cool idea. All right. So there are two more questions left. The next one is if you could describe, without breaking any SEC rules, if you can describe the perfect person, in other words, the type of person, now that we've got the motivations and the different roles, who could you help in real estate more than anybody else? Like who's the perfect fit for where you are right now, where you can help them get to the next level?
I'd say any friends or family that are in my network that are looking to get into real estate and they just don't know like what that next step is, what it looks like to invest in real estate, whether they're doing private money for flippers or they're in multifamily. I can help them because I've been educating on the topic, what it looks like to invest. I can run numbers really easily in like layman's terms, essentially. So just the people that really want to get like their feet wet, or they've got a lot of excess capital and they don't know where to put it. They don't want to put it in the stock market. I can help them break into real estate and really like be that person that cares and understands what it is that they're looking for to out of that opportunity.
And like playing the devil's advocate or whatever you want to call it. Let's say, okay, I like to think that we're friends, but like I'm your friend, but I'm afraid of wasting your time. I think that would be the biggest concern, right? So like, do you have something to say to your friends and family who are just like, yeah, I'd like to, like stop and talk to you, but I'm just shy and I don't really want to talk. I don't want to waste your time, sort of thing. Can you tell them anything to encourage them to give you a call?
I would say that there is no wasting my time, because if it's going to be something that will like change your life and it's something that you really feel powerful and strongly about, it's not wasting my time to help someone else. And if you feel shy about having that conversation, then you can just send me a text, because people like to do that too, right? So
Right, exactly. So okay. So you mentioned text, because that's the next question is what's the best way to get a hold of you? And sometimes it's LinkedIn, sometimes it's a website, something like that. What's the best way to reach out?
yeah, so LinkedIn's probably the easiest and fastest way to get a hold of me, because I'm always on there. So under Nicole Gautier, or you can send me an email at nicole@wicked-holdings.com. I don't know, can I put my personal cell phone number out there, or is that like a,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
That's
so if
good.
you want to send me a text, it's 832-785-7867. No question is too simple or too hard or whatever. I'm happy to help answer anything.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being here. It's been pretty exciting. Another chance encounter. I'm sure we'll see you around at some meetups. Thanks a lot for coming today, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dan. Appreciate it.
All right, great.